Hey guys, what's up? Jared here, Dex and Dice, Ramblings of an LGS owner, and I'm coming to you today with another, I don't know, serious video or whatever. Trying to find my cadence and all, but anyways, here we go. Like, one of the most dangerous things that can happen to any business is that you can succeed before you actually understand why you succeeded. Because currently in the TCG market we are experiencing right now, um, it's super easy to succeed. Okay, it's super easy to just buy card, flip card, burr goes bank account, and in that kind of an environment, everyone looks smart, like they know what the hell they're doing, like they're the greatest thing ever. All you have to do is follow blah blah blah, etc. etc. You know, I started this with $0, which is, we all should know that that's a bunch of BS because you obviously already had stock prior to or something, so you didn't actually start with $0. You know, so forth and so forth. Like, the current market makes everyone look way better than they currently are. Okay, and I'm throwing shade at myself too and everyone else or whatever, but like, it's just the hard truth. All right. What what happens is that the boom of the TCG market covers up mistakes. And that's okay as far as like businesses goes, because that's kind of what you want to happen. You know, it's like, oh shit, I fucked up, but I made X amount, so no big deal. I can sweep it under the rug and keep going. But like, that's something that happens during a boom. Now, what are you going to do when everything levels out? You know, what exactly are you going to do when you can't flip that Pokemon box for $400 and they're back down to, we'll say Pokemon boxes go back to an MSRP of like 160 or 165, whatever they're supposed to be. Like, are you still going to put in the time and effort to flip something for roughly $60 in profit? Or are you going to hang up your hat because now you have to flip, I don't know, 6 cases of that to make what you used to be able to make off of just flipping one? So, anyways, the reason why I pulled that up is just because we all know Pokemon's in a huge boom. You know, water is wet. One Piece is in a boom. Again, water is wet. Lorcana is even doing really well. There's not really too many mainstream TCGs that aren't doing well enough to where people look good with their decisions they're currently making, with interacting with the products, be that flipping it or holding it for sealed or whatever, in hopes of it, you know, investment gets bigger, right? But like, what's going to happen here is that you're just going to see the successes, right? Most of the time, you're just going to see the successes. I made 100K last year. I made $4,000 this week just doing this. I flipped this for that. You know, I XYZ. I nothing but positive, right? But most of them aren't going to tell you about bad inventory decisions they made. They're not going to tell you that maybe they actually overpaid for some of the stuff and they're just going to be breaking even, if not at a loss, with some of the crap they're selling you. They're not really going to tell you about the poor systems that they had, or maybe like bad record keeping or anything like that, you know, because in a boom market where everything is out of control, mistakes like that still bring in money and it still brings in a certain level of success, right? We are witnessing that now. Because like the old saying says, and it's, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats and all that good stuff, which is true, you know, it does, but a rising tide doesn't just lift all the boats, it hides all the holes that are in the hull as well, you know, and eventually it'll get weeded out. I'll leave that one there. Like, one thing that everyone needs to kind of consider is that the timing, and there's, because if you jump in right now, the timing is great. Obviously, you're going to be moderately remotely successful, whatever. The conditions are super favorable. Um, there's not really a whole bunch of like external factors that are going to push against you really to like where if you have a half-ass understanding of what you're doing, you're going to be successful in making money. But like the conditions are so favorable at the moment that you're not really going to know why, just that you made money, you know? Like you're going to in the boom of the market where everything is easy, you're going to make money, but it's not going to prove to you why, or even prove to you that you were the reason why you made money. You know, if you're in a desert selling bottled water, you're going to make money, you know? So, I believe that since it's been going on for about a year or two now, with a lot of the craziness going on with streamers and YouTubers and all that good stuff, we're starting to see a level of success, and it's success at the root of it all, like a level of success that is creating a false sense of confidence, right? And I think that there lies the real like underlying stalking tiger kind of thing, is that they're making money in a super easy market to make money in. They feel like they've solved the equation. They feel like they understand the market. They've broke the Da Vinci Code, as Rudy likes to say. Whatever you want to put in here, go for it. And then like they believe that, you know, oh, I've been doing this for 8 months now, or I've been doing this for a year now. I can tell people what to do, you know, like the market can, this particular market we're in can make you, I don't know what's the word, can make you like profitable before you are actually competent in the market. And I'm not saying I'm completely competent either. Lord knows I've had my mistakes, my trials and tribulations, all right? So let me just throw that one out there. I am speaking from a place of like experience. That's it. I'm not even like trying to talk down to people by pointing this stuff out. It's just, it's what I see, and I've been there, done that, and luckily by the skin of my teeth have come out the other end of it. So like I'm just trying to give a warning here for everyone watching the stuff and trying to like follow everyone, including me, because I'm you know, I should raise my hand so you can see I'm actually pointing to myself here, because like my advice is not infallible. My advice does not ring true for everybody. It's just advice that I hope helps some people, right? So like again, just remember that just because you're watching someone who's profitable currently or a success currently doesn't mean they're competent and that it's going to stay that way. All right. The real point of, I don't know, the where the rubber is going to meet the road, I guess we'll say, is that when the market itself stops helping, when it's no longer like selling bottled water in a desert, the margins shrink. Again, like I said, what are you going to do when booster boxes go from $500 a booster box back down to an MSRP of $165, or back to what most people were used to paying, you know, in the COVID era or before COVID or whatever, I can't remember the years, bear with me, of like 120, 130 a box, you know? What then? What's going to happen when the sales get slower because the margins have shrunk and you can't squeeze what you used to be able to? Your sales slow. What are you going to do then? What's going to happen when you have the inventory just sitting on the shelf collecting dust and you're like, damn, I used to be able to move this like that, you know? That's when you're going to start seeing the actual legitimate like cash flow problems, your labor to deal with things as far as this goes becomes a lot more like visible. Um, just everything that a boom market used to help just glide over, glaze over, whatever you want to call it, help streamline or make easier or whatever, is gone now. So you're going to start seeing the cracks and divots and weak points and all that good stuff. And that's when you're going to actually figure out if you really do, or if they do, whatever, if they really do have what it takes to do what they're currently doing in this insane, overly positive market, right? Be real curious in another 2 or 3 years to see who is still doing what. You know, hell, even me. Like, I mean, I'm curious to see if I'll be doing this in 2 or 3 years. You know, you never know. But like, anyone can make things happen, make stuff keep going in a particular way when you've got, you know, when the water is rushing with you, or the sail or the wind is at your back, or whatever you want to say. But like, what happens then is when all of that changes is you really get to know if you have what it takes to make it in the TCG world, you know. And I ultimately, at the end of the day, kind of hope for the best for everyone. But I also know that once this happens, we're losing easy 90% of everyone that's out there. It's just going to happen. So like, another thing I want for people to kind of keep in mind, though, when you're watching, you know, people like me or Rudy or anybody else, man, I don't care who it is, you know, anybody else out there who is currently riding this wave of, I don't know, TCG bulk seller starting stuff or whatnot. I'm not throwing shade at anyone either, but like, you guys just need to be aware that there's more to the story than they're going to tell you. There's more that you just don't know. Okay? And you need to be kind of wary about that. Like, do they have, I don't know, do they have family money that is helping them? Is their spouse the one that actually makes all the money and they just have funny money? Do they have a prior business that's like super successful and is helping run this TCG experiment of theirs? Did they already just have existing wealth? Like, you know, were they able to just sell some stocks or whatever to start this journey? What kind of outside investments they may or may not have had? You know, did they borrow $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 from a friend or two to start stuff, and, you know, pay them back or whatever? Which would go into like, do they have debt that they're not telling you about? You know, that would explain X, Y, and Z. And there's a whole other litany of things that could be happening behind the scenes that help them get to that point that they're not telling you, because like, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff, it only shows you part of the picture, and it only shows you the picture that people want you to see. And the thing that's kind of weird is, if you're following someone like me or anyone else, it's easy to poke fun at me, and I get it, cool. But like, you're trying to reverse engineer a business from what someone has shown you on the camera, essentially. You know, they didn't show you, they might have like talked about it slightly or whatever, but they didn't show you everything that has gotten them to that point. You know, sleepless nights, panic attacks, 16, 18-hour days, etc., etc. Like, they're most likely not showing you the full rundown of, this is actually what I did, you know? And I have a feeling that if someone were to break that down 100%, it would scare a lot of people off, because even, I guess, if you're trying to just flip the bulk out of your basement or whatever, that is still a commitment that a lot of people aren't ready for, right? And it's just one of those things of, you just don't know, and you shouldn't necessarily try to recreate someone else's business step by step. You shouldn't be able to, like, well, it worked here, so let me do X, Y, and Z. Not saying it's a sure way to fail, but just don't try to carbon copy it. You're going to have to mold it to what works for you, what makes sense to you, et cetera, right? So, moving on to something a little different, but in the same vein, is like you've got people who have like the success with what they're doing. Everything looks great. They're making, I don't know, $40,000 a month, or an extra $60,000 a year doing X, Y, and Z in this current bull market where everything is easy. It's a dime a dozen, no real effort. You got to understand that the results you're seeing from this does not equate expertise, okay? I'm no different. I get stuff wrong all the time. I get stuff right. But I'm just saying that, and I'm no expert, okay? I'm just trying to share with you what my veteran, if you want to call me that, of 5 years, well, probably 7 really for not doing, 2. Anyways, like, I'm just trying to tell you guys what I see, and for you to be aware of the weird little social media influencer traps and pitfalls and so forth and so forth. Like, just because they're showing results on something that's super easy to show does not mean expertise. You can give me a math test with just a whole bunch of addition problems on there and bam, blow it right out the water. But you start giving me calculus and I'm going to just sign my name at the top and give it to you and take my F and go. So, like, you got to be really careful, because the results don't really, they're not 100% true. And I'm not trying to take away the success mark here, because it's still, a success is a success nonetheless. A win is a win. Like if you're playing card games, a win at 1 life is still a win at 400 life. It's still success. I'm not necessarily trying to take anything away from anyone here. Just trust me on that one. Because the results kind of answer, like, what happened. Like, you put cards online, they sold, result is money, boom. But the expertise part actually answers, like, why did it happen? Like, you got to be able to understand the difference between the two and be able to mentally keep that in your noggin as you progress forward in your little endeavor, whatever it may be. Like I've said before in other videos, if you want to remain Mr. Backpack Vendor, by all means remain Mr. Backpack Vendor, or if you want to try to do an LGS, by all means try to do an LGS too. But, like, you just got to be careful, all right? You got to just understand nothing is exactly 100% as it seems, and what you actually need to start looking for when you're trying to take advice from people. And that sounds a little preachy, but I mean it in the best way possible. When you're trying to take advice from someone or replicate what they're doing, you need to kind of look at a few factors, right? Their longevity, how long have they actually been doing this? I wouldn't necessarily take most people's advice if they have not been doing this for more than 2 or 3 years, all right? That's just me. Their consistency on what they've been doing with it, how they've been doing it, and if they've stopped here and there or whatever. Like consistency is a big thing too. Because if they start, stop, unless there's real world life things happening to make them do that, that should flag you that they only really worry about this when there's a boom and there's money to be made, and they are fair weather people, right? Which means you got to make sure that the person you're watching and getting advice from has survived different kind of market conditions, and their willingness to admit mistakes, own up to stuff like that, be like, yeah, hey, I messed up, and then the ability for them to actually legitimately change their opinions when evidence changes and they learn stuff and all that good stuff. Like, if you were to, I've got like 260 something videos on this channel. If you were to go back and watch some of the original ones, my opinions and everything have changed, right? It happens. It's human nature. The more you do, the more you learn, the more your outlook and everything should change, right? If you're seeing this with no one else, or you get a weird feeling from watching someone that's, doing this, then listen to your gut on that. You should probably just back out of that particular video and never bother with that creator again, all right? Because the people that I tend to trust the most aren't usually the ones that like sound the most certain. They're not the ones that are like, I'm Mr. Confidence, I know exactly what's going on, I'm infallible, blah, 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 blah. Because that's arrogant for one, and two, like, no one's right that much. Sorry, not sorry. But the ones that I listen to are the ones who've been wrong enough times to know where the blind spots in their journey have. They know what worked, what didn't work, what kind of weird yellow red flags to look for or be more aware of as they go forward. Those are the kind of people that I try to continuously watch and take little advice things from, notes, all that good stuff. People like that are the ones that have actually learned valuable lessons from their own mistakes and have a strong enough backlog of effort, expertise, whatever you want to call it, to help them keep going forwards. If that makes any sense at all. I hope it does, because it's really hard sometimes to put thoughts into words. So, I guess, I got like maybe 45 minutes before I got to open, so I guess I should probably try to wrap this up. But anyways, I'm not saying that you should ignore successful people. I'm not saying that you need to confuse successful. Well, let me backtrack. Okay, I'm not saying that you should ignore successful people. I'm saying that you shouldn't confuse their success with like actual expertise, and they know exactly what should be going on right now, because the markets can create results. Because in a bull market like this, it is literally just get product, sell, make money, everyone happy, graph go up, right? But experience, and there's another word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it currently, but like experience teaches you why those results happened. And if you can find the right people with the right experiences and who have been through different markets, ups and downs, plateaus, all that good stuff, if you can find those people, those are the ones that I would cling on, not cling on to, but like those are the ones that I would actually pay more attention to, versus a lot of the weird little hype videos that my YouTube algorithm has been feeding me lately with the whole, I started with $0, I started with $5. I have 1,000 bulk Pokemon cards. Let's see if I can make $500, stuff like that. Like, it's not tried and true yet, guys. So, like, you know, if you don't know why it worked to begin with, you probably don't know if it'll work again. And like just being like graph go up, bear market, get product, sell product, make money. If that's the only like it worked thing that they can point to, then that's a huge red flag, because once things get hard and you're going through hard times, and maybe you go back to check on a video with them or whatever, and they've got nothing for you because they've never been through a bear market or anything like that. They've never experienced what it's like to have product just sit, or experience selling at a loss or selling to break even, any of that stuff. You're going to be left holding the bag and figuring it out on your own. Whereas someone who's been through this before is going to be like, hey man, look, shit sucks. I got you. This is what happened last time. This is how I kind of rolled with the punches. Let's see if it works out roughly the same way, but this is what I did. Maybe you should try it too, and I will come back and update you as I learn more about this particular market, and hopefully it works for you too, Not someone who's like, oh God, it's all going to hell and back, the market's crashing, I'm selling, I'm out, bye. Because again, I have a feeling that's what 90% of people is going to happen. When it finally just happens that way, that's going to be what happens. I thoroughly agree with Rudy and almost everyone else. So I believe that's all I've got today, guys. I just wanted to make a video about this to kind of just throw out a friendly warning, And I think there's like I said, there's an older video about this too on my channel, but not everyone's going to go back and look at the library, and I respect that because that's a lot of crap to go look through. And again, like I said, my opinions and views on stuff have changed, so making an updated version is probably the best thing to do. But yeah, I guess that's about all I got, guys. I've got to start doing some stuff around the shop now, and make sure we open up in about 40 minutes now. So you guys have a good one. I hope you're having a good weekend. I didn't mean to sound overly preachy or anything like that, or like that I know all the answers, because I don't. I'm human. I'm make mistakes. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to be right. It's just, I see a crap ton of new people coming into this space with stars in their eyes and the hopes and dreams to make it big, and with enough naivety to be completely just starstruck by what they're seeing, and then not being able to replicate it and feeling like failures, and I mean, that's part of the plan, that's part of business, shit fails, but like, you know what I mean. I don't want them to put all their eggs in like a basket or two and be like, this is going to work because this worked for them, and then once it's not working for them, they freak out, But anyways, I'm off this time, guys. I mean it. I mean it. It's an interesting time. It really is. But remember, life is not a dick. You don't have to take it so hard, but sometimes the dick does win. And you're a trash can, not a trash can't. And the best thing that you can really do is be like Nike and just do it. See what happens. You guys have a good one.